All right, I think that's working. I stopped. I was like, oh, I'm not going to have a good time to make this video. And it was like pressing upon me. So I needed gas. And right now is a perfect time. So my title, Authenticity versus Dumbing Down. I know we hate the word dumb and dumbing down, so I want to explain both. What I mean by authenticity is a genuine form of something, a reliable form of something. And dumbing down is, I guess, could be termed as the variability of something based upon the circumstances or the situation around. This Hanukkah, and I guess every feast day, I think for all of us, the introspection is always interesting. What the Most High chooses to weed out and the portions that He chooses to strengthen in each of us. And so for me, and probably for some of you during this time of dedication, I had to reflect on and look at the version of me that Yah wants me to be, and how that version of me has to constantly be showing up all the time in all of its refinement, because it serves as a testimony of where Yah can take each of us. And I think that's super important because I have lived, and I don't know if this is the same for some of you, a life of dumbing down in a lot of ways. Constantly trying to fit into spaces, fitting, square pegs into round holes, in an effort to try and conform and not be seen as who I am, which is something different, something other, the other always. And for a lot of us, as we journeyed into this awakening, we realize, and we've shared these stories, that we have always been the other, or we've been what they call the proverbial black sheep of the family, or the one that was just different. And that goes into so many layers. I don't know how many of you grew up in a statistical level black home where you were operating against a lot of the variables that were said to overtake you as a person. And how many times we had to somehow code switch or play into these different areas so that we could fit in within our own, but also fit in within, the European world and the academic world, and never really knowing how to merge not only the duality, but if this is even a word, the triologies of who we've had to become because of our disenfranchisement, because of our own choices, because of our ancestors' choices. And the Most High pressed it heavy on my heart. Stop dumbing down. I don't think he used the word dumbing down, but it's the word that I think is the most familiar to myself, and I'm sharing with you all, and it is stop showing up into spaces and looking around and seeing what people need, instead of looking around and seeing who I need you to be in that space, even if it means that you're called fake, or oh, you changed up, or oh, you different, or you moving different. Let it be. Let that be. Let that be true, because as we're growing into the authentic version of ourselves, and I'll get to that, as we're going to that authentic version of ourselves, we are growing further away from what people will recognize. We show up and have to reintroduce ourselves into spaces every time, because we should be so hard pressed, especially in these times, to do the work of the Father within ourselves, that every time we show up into a space, we should be somebody different. We should be more. We should be more knowledgeable. We should be more Torah abiding. We should be more kind. We should be more loving. We should be more discreet. We should be more introspective. We should be more developed as Hebrew Israelites, that we constantly push the spaces we into a higher level. What has begun happening, I think, for a lot of us, or has been happening for a lot of us as people of color, is that we don't know how high we're supposed to go. So when we get to certain levels, we think we've arrived. And then we adapt a pre-Westernized religious mindset. And for a lot of people that has stemmed from the place of Christianity, where it becomes who can hide their sin the most, or who's, covering up the most, or who looks like they're doing the best, and not based upon who's actually doing the work. And so then we hold ourselves and we conform to false standards, and then we fail those standards, and in the same vein fail, So when we talk about authenticity, the only true level of authenticity that we have is to constantly be becoming the person that Yah has for us to be. I've said this before. I'll say this again, and this may be true for others. I have never been more myself than since I've been then. I guess I've never been more myself than now. I'll put it like that. And that same thing will be said of tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because the only true self that I know and that I identify with and that I can say is a true testament of who I am is the person that Yah is making me to be. And I'm starting to find the me that I knew before becoming such a foreigner to me. So it's such a foreign person that it's almost hard to shift back into that space. And as we awaken, that's what's supposed to be. The similitude to my former self is not. And the likeness and image of Yah that I am trying to conform to should be my goal and what I'm striving toward. So when you struggle, and coming from a person that has struggled and will struggle and is going to overcome it, when you struggle with being the version of you that Yah has for you to be, because it doesn't seem to fit into the spaces or the people or the groups or the family that you're currently in, embrace that. That is the eagle stirring the nest. That is the uncomfortability being pushed upon you to arrive as who you are supposed to be. And when you arrive to that space, it's not an arrival of stagnancy. It's an arrival of instruction. It's an arrival of a special mission. When you arrive, you say, hey, I'm not that person. I need to go over here. And when you arrive, you receive in your hand a book. And that book happens to be the scriptures. And it begins to unveil to you who you are and whose you are. And as you begin to dive into it, it tells you what you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to act. And it doesn't matter what it looks like to the world anymore. The book becomes your standard. It becomes your mirror, and it becomes your guide for how you're supposed to walk out this life in front of people. And it doesn't mean you'll do it perfect, but when you align to that standard, you will begin to see shifts and changes not only in yourself, but in the people around you, but also in the positive in the people that Yah brings into your life to push you past who you think you are, how you identify, the identities you're trying to create, and push you into the authenticity of the change and the constant transformation until we reach a point where we can put off this mortality and put on immortality and dwell with Yah forever. Shalom.